6 weeks ago, I was laid off from my job, and I'm going to stop living with my boyfriend. But there are so many things that would have to take place for that miracle to happen.
Sweetie, can I talk to you for a moment? I'm hiring for a position in my home. I need someone to help my 2 grandchildren. Have you ever been a nanny?
So, a single father trying to raise 2 kids all by himself.
Sitting anyway, like.
He does have this high-acidity girlfriend, Chloe.
This is my
future wife.
Well, why doesn't she spend time with the kids?
She touched me with her gold digger hands.
Do, re, mi.
My late daughter-in-law, she swore by the acoustics in this room. Quentin would play the piano and she would sing.
Nobody touches that piano.
No one sings in this house anymore.
There's so much love inside of you, but you've been withholding it.
You were with her all day?
She's here to get close to the kids.
And you're falling for it.
Life isn't fair, and no matter what you do, bad stuff is still gonna happen.
Sometimes you just have to know that God is gonna make everything okay.
I was so locked into the pain of the past that I couldn't see the future.
You think you're just gonna waltz in here with your singing and Quentin's just gonna fall for you?
Montana.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond NSU. I'm your host, Chloe Ryan, and today I have the honor to be here virtually with Mr. Booker T Mattison, a 1995 graduate of Norfolk State University. Hi, Booker.
Hello there. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you.
Yes, I'm so excited as well. Okay, so my first question for you is, why NSU? We chatted a little earlier, and you had told me that you claim Virginia, but you're originally from New York. So why NSU?
NSU, I actually started off my academic journey at Tidewater Community College, Virginia Beach, and I was a radio and television production major. But let me go back a step before that. The reason I chose radio and television production was because it had the least amount of math. And at TCC at that time, you had to choose a major before you could register. So I'm rifling through the bulletin looking for the discipline with the least amount of math. And it was radio and television production. So I didn't choose the discipline, because I had some passion or some grand vision of what I would do. So I started at TCC and I was there for a year, and the state stopped funding the program at TCC. So I then transferred to Norfolk State, who had a 4-year program, and of course a far more a bigger and more illustrious program, and that's how I wound up becoming a Spartan.
Okay, so you started off in radio because of the least amount of math. You didn't have a love for it yet? You didn't do radio in high school?
Not at all. I mean, the notion of, radio and television production and even what that entailed was something that I wasn't even aware of. But I can say that at that time, I was seriously pursuing a rap career. I mean, I'm 50. How old am I? 52? Yeah, I'm 52. I'm 52 now. This was years ago, but I was seriously pursuing a rap career. So I started going in the recording studio, spending, my own money to record, I guess when I was maybe 16 or 17. So though I didn't have an interest in radio and television production per se, or mass comm per se,
yeah,
I was, very comfortable with, miking concepts and recording and the like.
Okay. And when did the rap career end?
That's also a great question. So after I graduated from Norfolk State in 1999, I went to NYU for film school, New York University. And this was the mid 90s, of course. So at the time, the East Coast, West Coast, rap battle was huge. So the two top film schools were NYU and USC, University of Southern California in Los Angeles. So I only applied to NYU because in my mind, I'm like, when I come out, I don't want to be considered a West Coast rapper, because I was very much an East Coast rapper. So that was the reason why I chose NYU. And that's actually what spelled the end of my music career, because the graduate film program at NYU was so incredibly demanding. I couldn't reasonably pursue becoming a filmmaker and becoming a rapper at the same time. So because of the extraordinary amounts of tuition dollars that I was investing in my Master of Fine Arts from NYU, I chose film. However, despite choosing film, I don't produce music anymore. I don't rap anymore. I can still do the human beatbox. But I still use, music is a very important part of what I do as a filmmaker. And my first novel, believe it or not, and I'm also a novelist as well. I've published 2 novels, but my first novel was set in the world of hip hop. So I used my experiences trying to make it as a rapper to write that book. So, I believe that God doesn't waste anything. It may seem like, these are disparate parts, but in fact, all of those skills will come to bear at some point in your life as you seek to fulfill your goals and your purpose.
Okay. Novelist, you write and direct films. Wow.
Yes.
So how did your experience at NSU help prepare you for your career?
That is an excellent question. You all are probably aware that most people, they don't use or work in the area that they got their undergraduate degree. That's technically the case for me. And at the same time, the things that I learned about framing, lighting, editing, sound recording, all of the things that I learned in a nonfiction context covering news at Norfolk State, those things prepared me for the graduate film program at NYU. So I was equipped and prepared when I got to NYU because of my experience as a mass comm major at Norfolk State. As well, I'm a communicator. So even now, with us sitting here having this conversation, being comfortable talking on camera, being comfortable talking in front of groups of people, those are the kind of the takeaways that my mass communications degree gave me. And another big thing about not specifically mass comm, but Norfolk State in general, Norfolk State is where I learned to be a leader. I was a knucklehead in high school. I actually didn't finish high school. I have a GED. And, I was, doing things, I'm not proud of. However, when I got to Norfolk State, that was the environment that prepared me, equipped me to be the leader that I am now, to be the communicator that I am now, to be the visionary that I am now.
Okay. I like that. Good story. Good story. So what activities, what programs, what organizations were you involved in while you were here at NSU?
Do you all still have the National Broadcasting Society?
NBS, yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I was the vice president. And is it still called AERO? I guess it's still the same name, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was vice president of the national of AERO. I also was on air at WNSB. I did a show called The Morning Breeze, which it was from 10. I don't know what time it ended. And then I also did a show. I proposed my own show, and it was on Saturday night, and I called it Saturday Night Live. And at the time I was producing hip hop, as I told you all. So I would actually, on that show, Saturday Night Live, I would play the jazz records. We were a jazz formatted station back then. We were NPR affiliate. I don't know if the station's still an NPR affiliate. So I would play the jazz songs that the rappers of the day were sampling. And, the record collection provided this treasure trove of records that I could sample. So I was in heaven, spinning these records, because back then in hip hop, if you had an obscure sample, you'd actually, black out the record, with a Sharpie, or, cover it, because you didn't want people to know where you got your sound from. Now, of course, you can go online and find out every song that's sampled. So being a part of the radio station was really exciting. And also the National Broadcasting Society as well, especially that New York trip that we made was off the chain.
I keep on hearing alum talk about this New York trip. I wish that we still had it.
You don't go to New York anymore?
No, we don't have it here.
Wow.
No.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for myself. So now I want to ask you about graduation, going from NSU to NYU. we kind of have a similar dream in a sense, different takes. But how is it going from NSU to NYU?
It was the first year of film school. I say it was the best and worst year of my life, and let me explain why I characterize it that way. When I got to NYU, everyone in my class at a base level was at least as smart as I was. And there were so many others that were far smarter than I was, that, had, far more resources and experiences. And I had to adjust because, I was used to being, again, I'm vice president of this group, and that, I was the man, as it were.
Yeah.
But, going into an environment where, at the base level they have, they are what I am, I had to adjust. And another thing that I experienced was, you're constantly looking and comparing yourself to others. So it's normal or natural, I would say, to do that. But taken to an extreme, it actually is self-defeating. So, having to, to manage that, but then discovering, and this was in my second year, it was a 3-year program. So the first year, again, it was challenging, but that summer, I was so shaken up by that first year. I, came back home to VA, stayed with my brother I had to get my head right? Because it was an academic and aesthetic culture shock. But what I discovered, here's what I discovered. And this is something that I've carried throughout, and something that I also use to encourage my students, is that it wasn't about, if someone had more talent than me, if someone had more resources than me. No one could tell the story that I was telling. You can have a script and you have 15 different directors, regardless of their skill level. No one can tell that story like I can, like you can. So that is what freed me to be able to imagine broadly and come up with concepts that were things that were unique. So I discovered my voice and refined my voice. And all of these things were as a result of really embracing who I was, which I wasn't, I guess, I didn't even realize that I wasn't doing that before then. So my message to you and to the other students is, no one else can do what you can do. No one else can bring to the table what you can bring to the table. And looking at other people, it's not going to benefit you in any way. I'm reminded of it was the last Olympics that Usain Bolt ran in. And there were 2 Americans in the race, and I forget what year it was. So, the gun goes off and they're running. And these 2 Americans, I guess they were surprised that they were doing so well against the champ, the world champ. And, and they looked, in that split second, right, of looking, what did he do? And he won. So you have to begin with the end in mind. It's all about the goal and achieving that goal. And whenever you know what the goal is, then everything that comes your way, you can determine, is this an obstacle or an opportunity to me achieving my goal? And looking to your left or to your right, just that split second can cause someone else to surpass you and get the prize.
I like that. I like that a lot. So now I want to talk about The Prize, your new movie that's coming out on
The
BET.
Sound of Christmas on Thanksgiving Day. Yes.
The Sound of Christmas has relations to The Sound of Music. So let's talk about that. You wrote the movie yourself. So where did the idea come from? When did you start writing the movie? I want to know your thought process.
Sure. Well, the film, The Sound of Music, is an adaptation of the novel, The Replacement Wife, written by my good friend, and who's also an executive producer on the movie, Tiffany L. Warren. So Tiffany, The Sound of Music was one of her favorite movies growing up. So she initially did this story, The Replacement Wife, as a stage play, believe it or not, down in Dallas, where she was living. And after doing it as a stage play, she decided to write a novel, which was, and I have to say about this book, get The Replacement Wife, the book. It was published in 2014. It's actually the funniest book I've ever read. When I was reading the book, preparing to adapt the script, I was laughing like crazy, and my wife is like, are you reading? You know, because she couldn't believe how hard I was laughing. So it was really, really great book. And it's not just funny, it's also touching and heartfelt. And, you know, so with the movie, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and you're going to be inspired, because it's also very serious and weighty as well. So fast forward, well, how did I get involved? Tiffany and I met on the author circuit. You know, when I was publishing novels, I put a pause in the filmmaking, and I published 2 novels between 2009 and 2011. So I met Tiffany back in, I think, 2010 or 2011. Fast forward to 2 years ago, Tiffany, who had already had a novel adapted on BET Plus, I call The Favorite Son, she pitched me to write and direct. So another thing that I tell my students, and I'll share with you all, relationship capital is more valuable than any currency, because if you have the relationship capital, you can get the currency. But if you don't have the relationships, it's going to be very, very difficult to get that coin. So this is a perfect example of that. Tiffany pitched me to write and direct, and that's how I got involved. And essentially, you know, Tiffany put me on. So shout out to Tiffany L. Warren. And your second question, how long did it take me to write the script?
Yes.
Well, you know, the script writing process begins long before you start pecking away and writing your draft. It started with a treatment, and you all know what a treatment is, but for those who are watching who may not know, a treatment is essentially a summary of the story. So the challenge with an adaptation is you have this 300-something page book that you have to turn into a 90-page script. And you can't just say, hey, put the book on screen. It doesn't work that way. So I had to create this story that at once captured the spirit of the novel, and 2, that Tiffany was pleased with, because as an author myself, my first objective was to ensure that she was happy with this. I liken it to, you know, you carry a baby around for 10 months, then you birth the thing, you birth it, you birth the baby, you birth the child, and then you give it away to someone else to raise. You know, so that's what she did. She gave it away to me to raise. So I wanted to make sure that I was raising that baby right. So I started with the treatment, and the treatment I think I wrote that in maybe, was it 4 weeks or was it 6 weeks? It was 4 or 6 weeks. I forget how long. Once the treatment was approved, I started drafting, and I believe I wrote the first draft of the script. Was that 4 weeks? 4 to 6 weeks, probably 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Now, once you have the script, then, you know, a production company gets involved. And the production company on this film is Megamind Productions. Shout out to Tressa Azarel Smallwood, who is the producer and the visionary behind Megamind. So the production company, they're going to have notes. Then once a network gets involved, they're going to have notes.
Wow.
And those notes don't always agree. You know, so the cool thing about working with Megamind is that Tiffany, myself, and Tressa, we would huddle together and figure out, okay, well, what's the best way, you know, to go forward, so that we were, you know, we were in agreement, and then we could, you know, address the notes from the network. So getting back to answering your question, I was literally rewriting and making adjustments up until, I don't know, maybe a week before we started shooting. And we shot last March, March of 2022, here in Atlanta. And we shot for 12 days. So when you see it, just remember we shot this in 12 days. So it looks delicious. Yeah, it looks gorgeous. But yeah, we were hustling, we were grinding, and we got it done.
Awesome. So BET Plus is a huge deal. Tell me who's in the movie.
The movie stars Neo, Grammy award-winning recording artist and songwriter, Serayah, who you may know from Empire, Black Mafia Family, Kingdom Business, Draya Michele, Draya, the one who has your name, the character name is Chloe. Jamal Bryant makes an appearance in the film.
Jamal Bryant, Pastor Bryant.
Yeah,
okay.
and he plays a bishop. He plays a bishop. And Elijah Kai, she plays the daughter. This is her debut film appearance. She's a great actor and extraordinary singer. Blake James, who plays the son, he's also, again, this is his film debut. And Roxanne T. Mims, who also plays in Greenleaf. So really wonderful cast. It was great working with them, and I'm just excited for everyone to see what we put together.
That's really exciting. What was it like working with them?
It was great. As a director, I teach directing and screenwriting at the University of Georgia. And, what I tell my students is that the most valuable resource, commodity, the most valuable thing to a director are actors. The saying goes that if you cast well, 80% of your job as a director is done. And my goal is to be regarded as an actor's director, meaning it's about partnering with your actors. It's essentially a marriage, is how I describe it. So it was great being able to communicate with these actors to put them in position to win. Another analogy I like to use is I'm a huge Steelers fan. So I'm Mike Tomlin, right? Mike Tomlin develops the game plan. Mike Tomlin puts his players in position to win, but Mike Tomlin is not on the field making plays. Okay. I'm not in front of the camera acting. So, but my job to be a great coach is to coach them and to get them in an emotional space where they can do and become and be organic in front of the lens. And that's what resonates with audiences.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I really want us to do a part 2 of this interview with
Let's
you
do
in
it.
next time.
Let's do it. Let's do
And
it.
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great. We could talk about the movie. Before we go, please tell us when the movie is going to be on BET Plus.
The Sound of Christmas, November 24th, Thanksgiving Day, 7 days away. Please stream it on BET Plus. And if you don't have the app, get that 7-day free trial.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Booker. And that is all the time that we have. I will see you next time on our next episode of Beyond NSU. I'm your host, Chloe Ryan.
Behold.